getting jobs via personal recommendations. And we are going to talk about that topic now. Okay, so here's the deal. I've got a video coming out, I think tomorrow, that kind of talks about this, but there's basically, and there always has been, at its core, two methods of getting a job. Okay? You can call them different things, you can subdivide them into different categories and spread it out into like many different methods, but there's basically two methods. The first method is probably what everyone is familiar with, the default method for a lot of young people, which is to go on the internet, you look up job listings that are posted, they're posted publicly, okay? And then you respond to the job posting with an application of some kind, okay? Usually when you go down that route, you're dealing with recruiters, okay? After all, usually recruiters are the ones that have written the job posting, and they're the ones that have actually posted it, and they're the ones that are at least in charge of the first stage of filtering candidates. Okay, so that's the first method. Now, different people call it different things. I call that like the standard method or the official method of getting a job, right? Standard path of getting a job, whatever you want to call it. That's one way. And the other way is essentially networking. Okay, you could call it the alternate path or the alternate method. The big difference is that you're not playing by somebody else's rules. You're forging your own path. You're not going through intermediaries that stand between you and a job. You're going straight to the decision maker who has the power to hire you on the spot if they so wish. Okay, that's the difference. And there's many ways to do this. If you're an introvert, you can do this remotely by sitting at home on a computer and, contacting people remotely. If you're more of an extrovert, you can go to networking events and meet people face to face and do it that way. Okay. What I would recommend for most people, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, is some kind of combination of the two of those, which I personally have used for many years, not to get jobs, but to get consulting work and, get informational interviews and all this kind of stuff, things I'd like from other people. And it involves a combination of sitting at home, sending out connections, setting things up, and talking to people face to face. Okay? And the idea that I recommend, there's many ways of doing this. Within the umbrella of networking, there's many, many things you can do. For example, you could go and apply for a job in person. It's basically the first method I mentioned, where you apply for a posted job you respond with an application. Only you're delivering your application in person, and you do this intentionally with the goal of having a personal interaction with somebody that's relevant at the employer, basically, like at their place of business or their organization, right? And the idea is that if they select you, or at least they select you to pass that round and move on to the next stage, they do it primarily because of your interaction, because they've met you. And either they liked you as a person, or you struck them as very professional, or you demonstrated other traits that are important, that are necessary, that they would need to know. And by doing that, you have elevated yourself above the crowd of all the other people that just sent in resumes. But, that's it. The company has not met those people. You have no personal connection with them. So if you also have sent in a resume, but you've met them, or you've met the hiring manager, or you've met the recruiter, or you've even met the receptionist, who then reports directly to the hiring manager, right? You have an advantage. It also gives you other things like you then have a reason to follow up. You can then say, you can maybe phone. People these days, for some reason, have a aversion to making a phone call, but you could leave a voicemail and say, hi, my name is X, and I'm just calling to follow up on the application that I left for you at the front desk yesterday. I just want to make sure that you would receive that. If you should require any other information, please don't hesitate to let me know. My phone number is this. You can reach me that way. Thank you very much and have yourself a great day, right? So it gives you an excuse to do something like that. Now, why would you consider doing something like this? What advantages does this have? Well, they've already gotten a free sample of your communication skills, how great you are at leaving a professional message and communicating, right? Maybe if they liked your message, you said you were very friendly and you said some very nice things. Thank you very much for taking my application. I just want to make sure you got it. Thank you very much. Have yourself a great day, right? They get a free sample of that. That's a sample of what you'd be like to work with, right? The other thing is that you demonstrated your passion and interest in the role by taking the trouble to do any of this. This is a lot more than every other applicant has done, right? So you're elevating yourself above the crowd. They're seeing that, this candidate actually cares about getting this job because they took the trouble to show up in person, right? Even if you didn't get any further than the reception desk, you said, can I talk to this person? They said no. You say, okay, no problem. Listen, I'd just like to leave this. If I leave this with you, can you make sure that they get it? Is that okay? And they'd say, sure. You're like, okay, well, please do that. Thank you very much. If you have a business card, there's an opportunity to leave that. This is who I am, all right? If you could see that they get my resume and my card, that would be great. Thank you very much. Have yourself a great day, right? You see, you're spreading positivity. They like you. They've seen you. And that's so much more than any other applicant, right? So this stuff matters. When you're filtering lots of resumes, things like this do matter. So that gives you an idea of the power. Hopefully, this gives you an idea of the power of networking, like being able to do things where we're talking about connections and relationships between people. They get a free sample of who you are. And as we all know, decision makers tend to hire people that they like. And if they see that, you're pleasant and professional and passionate and they get along with you, they'll like you, right? So I haven't really even scratched the surface of this topic yet, but let's get in further. So I said all that to say this. This is kind of like hopefully I'm getting through to everybody the value of personal interaction in the hiring process, okay? Now, as I said, there's two methods of getting a job. One is a standard method where you respond to a job posting with a job application. The other one is networking, and there's many things under that. I just gave you an example of one, applying in person, but that's not what we're talking about here. Today, we're talking about something else, much more of a pure kind of networking thing. It doesn't involve a job posting. It doesn't involve a job application. Oh, I'm tripping over my words today. Okay. So getting a job via personal connections. Okay. The first concept I want to make sure that everyone understands is some of the real issues that hiring managers and to a lesser extent recruiters have with candidates, okay? Now, I'm sure you probably can think of people that they talk a good game, but they really don't walk the talk, right? They make a great first impression with people. They're friendly, they're charismatic. They strike people as like, oh, that's a wonderful professional person. But once you actually start working with them, after a while, you see their true colors, which is that they're not really that good. I'm sure you've encountered people like that before, right? This is the problem that hiring managers have with recruiters, okay? Because when you're going through the job application process, they're seeing resumes, they're seeing candidates in interviews, and everybody talks a good game. Everybody tries to make it appear that they're the best employee who ever walked the earth. They're the most wonderful person to deal with. They've got everything you'd possibly need. They're, of course, super passionate about this job, right? and they're highly, highly skilled, right? That's what everyone is trying to convince them of. But the thing is, we know that that's usually false, right? People have flaws, people have issues, and obviously they're not advertising that, usually. So we have to try and find those, right? And that's what they take pride in doing, right? They do that at the resume stage, they do it at the interview stage, okay? So the problem is that you don't really know the true person, and a resume won't really reveal that to you, exactly how good somebody is. Neither will interviews. They won't really reveal that. These super formal interviews that we tend to do. And by the way, I mean, I'm a management guy, in management science, that's people who study these things at universities, people that have PhDs, and this is the kind of thing that they study. They've shown this with data, like for the last 30, 40 years at least. They've shown that the method of evaluating candidates at the worker and professional levels, like job interviews and things like this, how good are they at like really identifying the best person for the job or the right people for the job? They're really not that good. They're actually quite poor. And this, I don't think comes as a surprise to anyone, right? Because you really can't see the real person in this process, right? You can watch YouTube channels like mine and read articles on the internet and learn how to do an interview, and you can pass the interview. The fact that you can even do that kind of shows that the process is kind of bogus, right? It's not based on whether you're going to be a good employee. It's based on whether you can pass the interview, right? And pass the silly questions that these people like to ask. Okay? So this is the problem. This is the problem that recruiters have, okay? You don't really know. So this sets the stage for getting a job via personal connections. That's why personal connections are far superior in being able to identify whether a person is the right person for a job or not. That's why this is the way that most people are hired. Now, for you guys that have been in the job market for a long time, this is not your first job. This usually comes as absolutely no surprise to you. You don't have to take my word for this. If you are shocked by this, go and do your own research. You'll find that the vast majority of the people that have a job, if you ask them, how did you get your job? Did you get it through some form of networking, or did you get it by applying to a job posting and going through the standard process, and you didn't know anyone previously at the company or in that hiring process? Most people will say, no, I got it through some form of networking. I once worked with a coworker who got a job at this company, and they put in a good word with their boss about me, and that's why they gave me an interview, and I passed the interview, and I'm here. Right? That's far more common. Okay? So the reason why getting a job through personal connections, the reason why it's more effective is because you're not simply talking up how good you are. Instead, you are demonstrating how good you are, and those are two different things. Right? Now, a lot of people out there, maybe you're more like me, and traditionally I was better at demonstrating my value rather than talking up how valuable I am. You do get a lot of other people that are the opposite. They can talk a really good game. They can make a great first impression, but maybe you put them on the spot and say, okay, show me, and maybe they don't deliver the goods as much, right? But demonstrating is always a better test, right? So for example, let's say you're trying to get a job as a teacher or a public speaker or something like that. Instead of sitting in a job interview and answering questions about, do you have these communication skills? Instead, if the interviewer said to the candidate, get up and deliver a speech, or get up and teach me like a quick lesson, right? Give a quick talk, or whatever it is you have to do. Go and show me, right? that would be a much better test of that person's abilities than just having them answer questions about it, right? So that's the concept here. And that's why networking is so much more powerful, because you're demonstrating rather than talking about how cool you are, right? Okay. So the big question, and this is the final thing I'll say in this, is how to demonstrate, how to demonstrate your value, how this works. Okay. So there's three main ways, at least I know of, that I've seen play out and I've also utilized. There's three methods how people can do this. Number one is if they already know you. Okay. So obviously, if you've worked with somebody for years, they've been your coworker and you've had to work with them, you've had to interact quite a bit. You know that they know their stuff. And you might also know that they're easy to get along with. You might also know that they can handle higher stress situations reasonably professionally. And you know this because you've seen it firsthand, right? So they don't have to sell you on the idea that they know their stuff and they're professional, because you've seen it for years. You're already sold on it, right? That's obvious. That's the easiest way to do this, right? Okay. The second way is maybe they don't know you, but you've been personally recommended to them by someone that they know. Okay, so if I have a trusted coworker that I've known for several years, and they're a decent person, they know their stuff, they're reasonably good to work with, right? And I've had to interoperate with them. And they say to me, hey, I understand you're looking to fill a position. Just so you know, I recommend this individual. I've worked with them before. I know they're good, and I think you will too. So I'd recommend that you perhaps set up an interview with them. Right? Now, let's be clear. You're not hiring them because somebody says to. You're giving them a chance because somebody says to. Right? Now, why does that happen? That happens because think of my situation now. I've got to fill this position, and my choices are a bunch of people I don't know. They're strangers that have sent in applications, or someone that I trust who has recommended to me, and there's some jeopardy here, because if they recommend someone that is totally unsuitable, they're risking their personal reputation with me. If they advise that I should give this person an interview, and I give them an interview, and it turns out that that person is like ridiculously unqualified, it's a joke, I'm never going to trust this coworker again, right? So that's the other reason. There's a little bit of jeopardy. They're staking their personal reputation on this recommendation to a degree, right? So for that person, under those conditions, to recommend this, that I interview this person, that carries some weight. So I'm going to give them an interview, most likely, based off of this recommendation from someone I know and trust. Okay? So that's another way that this happens. Okay? And the third and final reason why getting a job through personal recommendation works and carries more value than going through a standard channel and the way you demonstrate is if they see your value firsthand. So they don't know you, no one's recommended you to them, but they meet you for the first time and they see your value demonstrated. And that describes the scenario we talked about earlier where somebody was applying in person, right? You walk up to the receptionist to give them your application or your resume. You don't know the receptionist. You don't know anyone at that company, right? But they see how professional you are. They see how you kind of maybe fit in around there. They see how you're pleasant to deal with, right? So you're demonstrating these things right in front of them. So even though there's no history, you don't know these people, they're getting a free demonstration of some of your positive traits. Okay, so that's how we can demonstrate. Now, this third method here, of demonstrating your value, that's something that anybody can take advantage of. You don't have to know anyone to do this. This is the great thing. Okay? Now, how do you get in front of people? There's many ways. You don't just show up and apply for a job. That's I would not recommend that necessarily. If you apply to a job in person, that's one way, but that's not the way I would recommend. What if you reached out to employers and just sent a message and said, "Hi, I'm here. I'm great at this. I know you guys do this work. If ever you're looking to hire someone to do that work, let me know because I'd love to work for you," right? What if you just sent that out to a lot of employers? How many other people do that? Not many. How many people apply to jobs these days that are posted? 1,000? I said on a video that you may get more than 100 applications on an internet job. And I got laughed at because people said, "Oh, it's like 2,000 or something." It depends on the job. But a lot of people apply for a posted position. How many of them do you think reach out to an employer who hasn't yet posted a job, but does the kind of work that you can do? And they obviously employ people like you. How many people do you think reach out to that company when they haven't posted a job and send a message like the one I described a moment ago? Hardly anyone. So if you do this, chances are you could be the only person that's reached out to them. I like those odds. So if the hiring manager is thinking of posting a job later that week, and already your message lands in their lap and says, "Hey, I can do this. I know you guys do great work in this area. I have skills in that area. I'd love to work for you. If ever you're looking, please let me know." That just landed right in their lap. They may think, "Hey, before I go to all the trouble of writing a job description, paying someone to post it, sitting in rounds of job interviews that I really don't have time for and that take me away from doing my work, before I do all of that, maybe I'll have a quick talk with this person. Because if they work out, I can save myself all of this." Also, they're showing me that they're passionate about this type of work. So this job matters to them. And also, I've just gotten a sample of their professional communication skills. And number one, it's professional. Number two, it's pleasant to deal with them. I want to respond to them. Those are some good traits right there. That's way more than I will know about candidates. If I post this job and they send in their resumes, I won't be able to tell that information from them, but I already got this information from this individual. Right? So it's that principle that we're talking about. Okay, so getting a job through networking can utilize these three methods of demonstrating your value. Okay, namely if you already know someone, like maybe a coworker that you met a couple years ago, now they're working for a different company, right? If someone that you don't know personally, but someone they know knows you, okay, that helps. And everyone will have a lot of those. Think of every other person you've been in school with, every other person you've worked in the same company with, had some kind of professional interaction with. Think of all those people. Think of where they are now if they've moved on. That's a lot of people and a lot of opportunities. And then finally, you don't even have to know anyone. If you reach out to them and demonstrate several things in the process of doing that, already you're elevating yourself above the crowd of people that just send in applications to jobs. Okay, so those are the concepts, right? There you go. I mean, there's even more I could go into. I think I'm going to stop here. We'll go to questions, but we haven't even covered broadcasting yourself, publicizing yourself. If you work in an industry, maybe you want to be regarded as a thought leader in that industry. In that industry, in your local city or your local region, just within those circles, you want to be somewhat known. You want your name to get out. so that when you perhaps put yourself forward for opportunities, they've heard of you, something like that. Right? We haven't even covered all that, but there's so much to this. Hopefully I've managed to sort of put the problem in perspective, or the solution in perspective for a lot of you guys. Let's go over to questions. This is, after all, a Q&A. By the way, if you do want to get deeper into this with specific templates and things, get that course, okay? There's a shameless plug, but it's true. I created this course to help people. If your job search campaign is not going anywhere fast, or you're confused about what to do, what's going to work, I cover multiple methods of getting a job in that, with templates and step-by-step principles, a lot more clearly stated than I'm rambling about here. So check that out. Link in the description if you're interested in doing that, which many people have, and it's worked for them.